misclosures with cell phones, instant messaging systems for the younger adults only, text messaging, online social networking like Facebook, online shopping, and on down, different kinds of technologies. Now, the differences here I'm not going to really get into too much because there are differences in the technology usage by older and younger adults. So it's certainly not, I certainly wouldn't hypothesize that it's the case that if older adults were using Facebook with the same frequency that the younger adults were, that there wouldn't be these huge differences in terms of the systems that happened with misclosures. But anyway, again, the point is just that these occurred across a large variety of systems. And interestingly, it wasn't the case that it was people who were brand new to these systems that were experiencing misclosure. In over half of the cases for both younger and older adults, participants had been using the system for at least a year when the misclosure incident that they reported occurred. I asked people to talk to me about what they thought the system factors were that influenced this misclosure. So if I said, what do you think, what about the technology made this misclosure happen? And there were some commonly reported things. So often autofill or predictive text was something that occurred that people thought was related to misclosure incidents. So for example, if I'm using an email program and I start typing a name, perhaps it autofills with the wrong name. So instead of John Smith, it's John Say or something like that, right? So it fills in the wrong person's name. Interface or button proximity was something that happened. So if on a cell phone, if something was very close to each other, or if an email, if two buttons were very close to each other, people thought this was what happened in terms of them sending information to the wrong person, or vice versa. Focus or cursor changing automatically. So there was an example of someone, I gave the example of an AIM versus a Trillion user earlier, where someone would Alt-Tab and accidentally type in the wrong message or type in a message to the wrong person. Or whether it was just the recipient was unclear. So just kind of general interface or visibility types of issues. In terms of when I asked people what factors, what was it about their actions that contributed to the misclosure, there was also quite a bit of variety. But people most often just said, "Oh, I just wasn't paying attention," or "I was being careless, and this is what led to the misclosure," or "I didn't double check," or "I was in a hurry." But again, there was quite a variety here. So in terms of summing up the misclosure study, the big finding from this study is that misclosures do indeed occur. So this is something new that I've identified and found based on this study, that all but 5 of the participants reported that they had personally experienced a misclosure. Misclosures occur across a variety of systems. This isn't limited to just one kind of system. They happen email, cell phones, things that we use all the time. More than half the time, participants had at least 1 year using the system when a misclosure occurred. So it wasn't that people are using a brand new system and they just didn't know how to use it, and this is why a misclosure occurred. In general, participants were familiar with the systems that they were using when a misclosure occurred. So I have a couple of examples. I think I'm just going to briefly describe them. These are actual examples from the study. Calling Brother Timon is one of my older adults, and what she explained to me happening is that in her phone, her son's name is very similar to a gentleman who works at the airport, works night shifts at the airport, and this participant, when she wanted to call her son, would often call Brother Timon instead of calling her son, and felt really bad about this because she would wake him up when he was trying to sleep during the day. So this is a recipient misclosure where this older adult was calling the wrong person and potentially bothering him during the time that he was supposed to be sleeping. Sending wrong photos, I've kind of explained that to you before. In the MMORGP fail, a participant was giving their password or giving their character to a friend of theirs, and instead of giving it to the friend, they ended up typing it in the wrong place and giving it to someone that they didn't intend to give it to. If you're interested, I'll be happy to share you more detailed examples of these. But the idea here is just that the people had kind of these rich stories about what was going on when in their misclosure experience. So some of these might seem kind of inconsequential, and maybe even the misclosures, when I asked you to raise your hand whether or not you had experienced a misclosure, you might think, yeah, I sent something to my friend that I meant to send to my mom, or it wasn't a big deal. But that's not really the issue here. I gave you some examples where it is a big deal when misclosures occur, but also it's really important for us to think about this in different contexts. So if this is not Facebook, but now it's HealthBook, and this is where I'm sharing all of my health information with different healthcare providers, it becomes really important that I share the right information with the right people. And if I have sharing in privacy settings that look like this, that might, based on what I found, it's potentially a really, really difficult task to share with the right people. So if I want to share my x-rays with my physician, but I don't want to share my x-rays with my insurance company or whoever it is that I don't want to have that information, then we need to think about misclosures when we're designing health applications as one example of a place where misclosure incidents could be really critical. In fact, in health informatics and medical informatics right now, security and privacy is one of the key areas that is identified as a barrier to the adoption of systems that have the potential to really help control costs in health settings and also to make care better for the people who are receiving care. So this is a big issue in medical informatics right now. Luckily, the implications for design have some really basic sorts of things that we can do from a human factors perspective to make that will potentially have really big impacts. So from human factors and HCI from a very long time ago, people have known that people will make mistakes when they're using a system. And implementing a simple undo feature, which Gmail just implemented this year, if you accidentally send mail to the wrong person, has the potential to let people fix this really before it becomes a problem. So if I send an email and I recognize immediately after I've sent it that it's gone to the wrong person, if I have an undo feature, I can take care of that. Now, of course, we would prefer to have a system where you just don't send it to the wrong person in the first place. But implementing an undo function in communication system is something that's really easy that can potentially have a large impact. Another idea in terms of a design implication is what I call social Wysiwyg. So Wysiwyg, of course, a concept that everybody knows about, but this is, what you see is what you get in terms of who you're sharing information with and and what the information is. So if I want to share the photo with my advisor, if I want to email that to him, I should have some idea of what that photo is, not just a random string of numbers that my camera identifies the photo as. I should have some sort of preview of what I'm about to send to him so I can fix it before I actually give him that information. In terms of summary, I've identified and categorized privacy behaviors across multiple technologies, revealing a number of design opportunities. I've identified the system and psychological conditions under which misclosures are likely to occur, and proposed a framework for continuing research on user privacy, and suggested some design strategies to improve user privacy. I would like to thank everyone on my dissertation committee who was wonderfully helpful in this research, a number of students and colleagues that I worked with at Georgia Tech, and also colleagues at IU who have helped me think a lot about this research. And I'll be happy to take questions about anything that I've talked about today. Yes.